Indonesia, Police Commissioner General Martinus Hukom, along with BNN senior officials. The Honorable, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ms. Gita Sabharwal. The UNODC Head of Office and Liaison to ASEAN, Mr. Eric van der Veen. The UNODC Regional Office on Southeast Asia Pacific Drugs Precursor Team Leader, Mr. Rainer Pongs. The Director for International Security and Disarmament Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Chaka Alferdi Awal. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Now we move on to the speech segment, which will begin with opening remarks. May we invite the head of the National Narcotics Board of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Martinus Hukom, to deliver his speech.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Distinguished guest, Ms. Gita Sabharwal, UN Residence Coordinator, Mr. Eric van der Veen, UNODC Head of Office and Liaison to ASEAN, Mr. Rainer Pongs, UNODC Rosep Drugs and Precursor Team Leader, representative from government agencies, embassies, international organization, development, partnership, and media members. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished representative, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the 2025 World Drug Report Briefing. BNN's hosting of this gathering is testament to our collective commitment to combating one of the most pressing challenges facing our region and nation. The 2025 report shows a 24% surge in meth seizures in East and Southeast Asia, with industrial scale production in the Golden Triangle and maritime and digital routes exploited by traffickers. Indonesia remains highly vulnerable. In 2024, BNN dismantled 27 drugs networking. In May 2025, we made our largest seizure, nearly 2 tons of meth in the Riau Islands. This underscores the strength of our intelligence and cooperation. Still, enforcement is not enough. BNN advances prevention through Desa Bersinar, youth engagement, and skill training in high-risk areas. We also enhance rehabilitation via community-based program and recovery agent training. Transnational drug networking evolve fast. Our response must be smarter and more united. Today's briefing enables intelligence sharing and reinforced cooperation. Indonesia will continue leading regional anti-drug effort through strong domestic capabilities and international partnership Together we can safeguard our future. I look forward to today's presentation and discussion. May they enhance our shared understanding and unity in this vital mission. Thank you for your attention and continue partnership in our collective endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, General, for the welcome speech. Next, I would like to invite the United Nations Resident Coordinator to deliver her speech. Please welcome Ms. Gita Sabharwal.
So, Selamat pagi,
Selamat pagi.
Police Commissioner General Athenas, heading BNN, Police Inspector General Pa Agus, again from BNN. I'm looking for Pa Chaka Kemalu. I know he was there somewhere. Pa Chaka, welcome. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from government, and BOO. It's a pleasure to join you for this national briefing on the 2025 World Drug Report and the latest developments in the region's synthetic drug landscape. I would like to commend Police Commissioner General and the Inspector General for your leadership and commitment to leading on these issues of drug trafficking, which is a very critical agenda. Illicit drugs are at the root cause of grave social evils, and your commitment to eliminating them in Indonesia is truly exemplary. However, drug trafficking knows no borders, and I'm encouraged to see representatives from the ASEAN Secretariat and the Diplomatic Corps, as well as the Indonesian government joining us today. This level of cross-border and multi-sectoral engagement is what we need more of, given the scale of the challenges for Indonesia and the region. Today's discussion comes at a very critical juncture. The scourge of drug abuse is deepening globally, and amid increasing economic and social instability alongside armed conflict. Complicating effective law enforcement is the expanding reach of transnational organized crime. The new global report, which is released by UNODC, underscores the growing complexities and the cost of this problem. Nearly 300 million people have used illegal drugs in the last year, a 20% increase over the last decade. But behind the data are real lives. Communities fractured, young people endangered, and public health system strained. Indonesia is not immune to these challenges. The country remains a key transit and destination point for synthetic drugs in the region. Last year alone, BNN dismantled 27 trafficking networks, and just 2 months ago, Pa Matthews, as you pointed out, the Indonesian authorities conducted the largest drug seizure in the country's history off the coast of Riau Islands. Building on these achievements will be critical going forward. Today's briefing will allow us to formulate evidence-based responses in partnership with government, yourselves, along with communities and the UN. This is particularly true in the face of evolving nature of challenges. Producers of synthetic drugs, especially methamphetamine, in the Golden Triangle are exploiting digital platforms, financial front companies, and weak border enforcement. What used to be isolated criminal acts are now part of large and more dangerous networks that also fuel money laundering, cybercrime, and social insecurity. Law enforcement alone cannot resolve this. We need an integrated approach, including prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and socioeconomic reintegration with public health and human rights at the core of our strategies. The UN system in Indonesia stands ready to continue supporting BNN together with UNODC, and Eric, thank you very much for that, and all the national partners in these efforts. We are working across agencies to align with Indonesia's national priorities in line with the President's transformative vision of the country. The UN Secretary General stresses that prevention is our strongest line of defense. Reducing demand through education, treatment, and care is a critical pillar of defense, and so are disrupting trafficking networks and protecting the most vulnerable. So let me conclude by saying that together we can build safer, healthier, drug-free communities for all. Thank you very much, and Terima kasih.
Ms. Gita, thank you for speech. Ms. Gita, please kindly move into. Okay. Ms. Gita, please kindly move in front of the stage. To highlight the strong collaboration between the National Narcotics Board and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, we will now witness the symbolic handover of the 2025 World Drug Report from UNODC to BNN. We kindly invite the head of BNN to come forward. The moment will be captured in photo sessions. Okay. The handover of the book will be followed by the plaque of appreciation as a token of gratitude. It's a plaque of appreciation as a token of gratitude. Okay. Please kindly hold your position on stage because we invite all speakers to group photo sessions. Yeah, the UNODC, Rainer Pongs, the Director of International Security and Disarmament, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Chaka, to come forward to group photo session, and also the BNN senior officials, Mr. Tantan, you can come forward. Okay, thank you. Please return to your seats. We will now begin the presentation and discussion session. This session will be moderated by Mr. Chaka Alferdi Awal, the Director for International Security and Disarmament Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Chaka, the floor is yours.
Thank you and good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, yang terhormat Pak Kepala BNN, yang kami hormati Ibu Gita, Pak Erik, para deputi, pejabat sekalian. Kita akan mulai panel diskusinya. For this, we will have to do it in English. So I would like to call on Mr. Rainier Pangs to the stage from UNODC Regional Office. Please. And of course, Pak Deputy, Pak Agus Irianto, to come to the stage. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, of course, first of all, let me extend my appreciation to the head of BNN, Police Commissioner General, Dr. Martinus Hukom, for inviting me to be here. Truly appreciated. Ibu Gita, UNRC in Indonesia, Pak Erik, and Bapak Ibu sekalian, and of course, Excellencies, Ambassadors, colleagues from Diplomatic Corps in Jakarta. Today's event is particularly timely and important in the context of our fight for the drugs trafficking. We will hear briefings from Rainier regarding the trend and the findings in the global, regional, and national level. And of course, we will hear also from Pak Deputy, Pak Agus, regarding Indonesia's effort. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Rainier Pangs, Team Leader for Drugs and Precursors at the UNODC Regional Office for Southeast Asia and the Pacific from Bangkok. Mr. Pangs brings over more than 25 years of experience with UNODC across the world. And he will present the main findings of the 2025 World Drug Report, as well as the drug trafficking trends in Southeast Asia. Mr. Pangs, the floor is yours.
The PowerPoint. So, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much, BNN, for the invitation and hosting this event. Gita, nice to see you again in Indonesia after working together in Bangkok. As I was introduced, I've been with UNODC over 25 years, basically taking care of the drug program area across the world in different places like Latin America, and then in our headquarters in Vienna, where Eric started together in the same institution. It's a long time ago. And over close to 6 years now, I'm in Bangkok in the regional office of UNODC, and taking care of the drug control program, and including prevention, treatment, supply, chemical side, which is the biggest challenge that we face in the region at the moment. Do we have the PowerPoint? Yeah, I don't know if it was someone, or I click, I mean, I think they're uploading it.
Ada yang punya itu tuh, sana tuh. Pointer.
Looks better. That looks better. Oh, it's just behind me. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to use some of the reference that we had in our recently published report on the World Drug Report, just to give an overview of the drug situation globally. And the second part, I will focus more in Southeast Asia region That is where we work more, and the problems are more related, including to Indonesia, than what we see happening in other regions outside. Just to give a quick overview of the world drug situation. And finally, I will try to conclude with some of the relevant more aspects that impact Indonesia at the end. Next one, please.
Next slide.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the structure of the presentation with the global situation, regional, cross-cutting challenges that we see connecting the drug trafficking issue and the drug use all over the region with other criminalities that have been growing over the last years. And at the end, the implications for Indonesia. Next one, please. This one is just to show you a summary of the global drug use situation. As has been mentioned before, 360 million people are using or use drugs at least once in the last, in 2023, if we go back to 2 years always our report. That's a growth of 28% over the last 10 years. Cannabis, opioids, amphetamines, cocaine, ecstasy, these are the figures that you can see. And this is the drug use that we see across the world with the reports provided by member states. People with drug use disorders, also back in 2023, 64 million people. That's also an increase of 13% in 10 years. And 8.1% of the population in treatment. It means that 1 in 18 men is in treatment, and no, 1 in 7 men, sorry, and 1 in 18 women are in treatment from this report. Next one. The global coca bush and opium production, there's a divergence in cultivation and production trends that we see. You see from the coca bush, we have an increase in 6% from 2022 to 2023. And the opium one has been stable. No increase, no decrease, that makes a big difference. And the same happens here also with the cocaine seizures that's been rising again all over the world, and the production capacity, and heroin is basically going down. This is one of the challenges that even for UNODC is unclear what's happening with the heroin market because of Afghanistan, who dominated the global production over years and years, had around close to 90% of the global production of opium and heroin, now is down to 5 to 10% maximum. Myanmar, which is located very close to here, is now #1 in opium and heroin production globally. Next one, please. Here we see the global drug seizures, the trends in quantity of drugs. Again, ATS is the biggest one in growth that we have globally. That shows us the move from plant-based drugs like cocaine and heroin and cannabis into more synthetics. That means that only chemicals are needed to manufacture these drugs illicitly. And that's the major trend also that affects this region, where we see more and more synthetic drugs being circulated, new synthetic drugs coming up every year, and I will show you next, in the next few slides a few of the figures that we have. Record high levels of ATS seized, with methamphetamine reaching 482 tons, marking a 31% increase from 2022. This is global. Later you'll see what affects this region more. Cocaine seizures rose by 13% to 2.2 thousand tons, and it's going upwards. New markets of cocaine use are being discovered, if we can call so. More and more cocaine has been seized also in this region. Cannabis herb seizures declined by 8%, but resin rose by 4%. Heroin and morphine seizures declined by 25% and 31% respectively. That's the challenge, whether they are adapting to the new production sites, new markets. The conclusion that this report shows is that there are still stocks available from the period pre-Taliban in Afghanistan that hasn't affected the market that much so far. But slowly in Europe, the prices are starting to increase because it's harder to get a hold of the heroin. Seizures of pharmaceutical opioids surged by 63%, reaching 268 tons. the largest among opioid seizures globally. Next one, please. These are the new psychoactive substances that have been identified globally. 527 new substances were on the global market in 2023, including 56 newly identified substances. The total number of NPS remains very high, though stable compared to peak levels in earlier years. We had years where we had over 1,000 new psychoactive substances coming up in the market, but it's a very fluent market. New substances are created, there's no market for them, they disappear, other one comes up. It depends on the control of the chemicals. If a chemical that's essential for one of these new drugs is being put under control, it just disappears, they replace it by another one. Shift in NPS composition between 15 and 23, we see a decline in synthetic cannabinoids from 29 to 23%, and an increase in synthetic opioids from 3 to 9%, and other NPS from 14 to 19. Next one, please. The common challenge and local dynamics. This picture just shows, it's hard a bit to see, how the cocaine market is basically centered more in South America, because that's where the production, the three countries are. And then you have a growing market in Europe. You have some coming up in Africa. But in this region, it's very little other than in Australia. Now moving on to the next, to the regional situation. Just jump one slide. Got stuck. Next, please. Okay. This is the area under opium poppy cultivation. That's really, in Myanmar, that's really stabilized. We see that in 23, we had 47,000 hectares roughly, and in 24, 45. So we had a small decline in the opium poppy cultivation in Myanmar. But on the other hand, next one please, the yield is also still very high in Myanmar. That means you have less area, plantation for poppy fields, but you have the same amount of opium and morphine and heroin coming out of the region. Next please. The potential opium production in Myanmar in 23-24, from 2002 to 2024, you can see by the graph, we have a significant increase in yield per hectare, like 20 kilos in 2024, when we had 14 kilos in 2021. The overall capacity was of 1,000 tons. It's very close. We had 1,080 tons in 2023, and then in 2024, a small decrease to 995 tons. Myanmar opium's production totals now more than twice of Afghanistan's, making it the world's leading producer of illicit sourced opium. Next one, the regional heroin market. We see a risk of expansion. Possible revitalization of heroin market in some countries in the region. Increases have already been reported in Myanmar, in Thailand, and Vietnam. These countries are seizing more heroin than before. Opium and heroin market are at a crossroad as global heroin supply chains is adjusting. That's what I mentioned with the lesser production coming out of Afghanistan, more coming out of Myanmar. How do you get that to the main consumer markets? It's stable still because of existing stocks, but I think this is the last year of existing stocks because it also deteriorates. That means either we will see an expansion in markets coming from this region, or we will see heroin users moving into another drug, another synthetic drug, or synthetic opioids of different nature. Next one. The meth seizures reached another record high in this region, 236 tons last year, marking a 24 increase compared to the previously in 2023. Only Southeast Asia sees 94%, and East Asia, which was like 10 years ago the main market, now had only 14 tons, which is 6% of the total in the region. The 5 lower Mekong countries in Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Laos PDR, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, sees roughly 200 tons in 2024. A decade ago, seizures totals were almost evenly split between East and Southeast Asia between the two regions, but now it's basically Southeast Asia. And this production is all taking place in Myanmar in the Shan state. Next one, please. Here, I will leave that. I'm not going to go into the details. This is very specific on Myanmar, but where we see a growing connection between conflict events inside the country growing over the different years that we did the comparison with the methamphetamine and crystal methamphetamine market. What we see in changes also is that they're seizing less shipments, but those shipments are bigger than before. So we had a lot of seizures in the past, around 100, 200, 300 kilos, but now we're seeing a lot of seizures, more than a ton, and that's across the region. Next one. Here you have some of the figures on the change in meth seizures amount in this region, East and Southeast Asia. Thailand, 130 tons, Myanmar, 42, Laos, 14, China, 10, Cambodia, 10, and Vietnam, 5.2 tons. What we see is that in Indonesia, you had a decrease. That's good for the region, for the country at least. The next one shows you, the next slide, the trafficking routes that we see in the region. This map always confuses me a lot because there's a lot of arrows, but it's basically to show you that it's coming out of Myanmar, where the big blue ball is, and then going across the region in a variety of transportation modes, land border, land transportation, maritime transportation, air traffic, and we see over the years a bigger integration between the land trafficking with the sea trafficking. So there are shipments of methamphetamine leaving Myanmar on ships, going back into land in Thailand, then crossing into Malaysia by land, and then going again on ships, and then going across Indonesia also. Next one. Cambodia is one of the countries that surprised us more recently with this huge increase becoming a methamphetamine hub in the region, where we got from, in 2020, less than 1,000 kilos to 2024, over 9 tons of methamphetamine seized. And this is because it leaves Myanmar. Then when Thailand increases the control on their border, it goes into Laos, and then from Laos, because it's a landlocked country, it goes then into Cambodia, where then they put it on maritime trafficking normally, then across the region. Next one. This is an example of Cambodia as a hub. This was in November last year, where they seized 4 tons of crystal meth and 400 kilos of ketamine. This is also the new trend in the last 2 years, that we see more and more shipments being seized, not of one single drug type, but they are mixing 2 different drugs. Like you have the shipment of crystal meth plus ketamine. So it seems that is leading for the expansion of the ketamine market in the region, where they offer methamphetamine, at the same time they bring ketamine as a new product that should be used. This is, again, traffic from Myanmar via Thailand and destined for Taiwan, province of China, with a fishing boat. The next one, it's a maritime trafficking from the Golden Triangle to archipelago countries. This was in May this year, off the west coast of Sumatra in Indonesia, where you seized 1.2 tons of ketamine and 700 kilos of crystal meth. There's 1 Thai and 4 Myanmar crew members were arrested. This is what we see more and more in this country, in this region here, where you are using the fishing fleets for the trafficking of illicitly manufactured drugs. Next. This is the more concrete maritime trafficking that we see from Sabah, Malaysia. Serves as a major maritime trafficking hub in Southeast Asian countries, where we had in 2022 around 200 tons of seizures, and then now in 2024, we went up to over 1,000 kilos, sorry, not tons. Next is a concrete example of Sabah, Malaysia as a hub. This was May last year. The location was in Zamboanga City in the Philippines, where 21 kilos of crystal meth were seized, and this was never reported before in the Zamboanga Peninsula. The drugs were trafficked from Tavu division of Sabah, Malaysia. And that shows an active presence of drug trafficking syndicate operating in Sabah, Zambasuta Maritime Trafficking Corridor. And this corridor is used for all other illicit activities, including small firearms and weapons, and not only drugs. And the next one, again in the Philippines, this is June this year, where you see 1.5 tons of crystal meth. The drugs were intercepted on a Philippine fishing vessel 50 nautical miles away from their coast. Again, Filipinos and Chinese and Malaysian arrested, and there's suspicions that they are part of the Samgor syndicate. That was an old one that everybody thought by arresting the head of it, it will be gone, but it's still very, very active. Next one, showing that we have an increasing westward meth flow from Myanmar to India. That affects then Indonesia again, because we see a lot of methamphetamine leaving Myanmar, going into India, and going then also into Bangladesh, then moving into different fishing, transportation, maritime vessels, and then going across Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia, wherever they want to ship it in the Philippines. And this, the next one shows you again in November last year, in Sagaing region in Myanmar, where you see 400 kilos of crystal meth and 5.5 million tablets of methamphetamine, plus heroin and caffeine. Caffeine is just a cutting agent, bulking agent for the methamphetamine tablets. The drugs were sourced from Shan State and trafficked through Mandalay with the intention of being sold in areas along the Myanmar-India border. And the caffeine, surprisingly, this time was trafficked from India. Normally, it comes from Vietnam. Next one shows you the profiles of the methamphetamine. That's where our challenge comes in, because what we see is that more and more ephedrine and pseudoephedrine are the starting materials for the methamphetamine. For crystal meth, samples that we saw 31% in 22 and then 79% in 2024. The interesting of ephedrine and pseudoephedrine, they are highly controlled substances globally, and there is a very small trade in this region. That means no international trade basically, and no seizures reported. So we have a starting material for an end product, which is methamphetamine, that nobody sees in the region. It's not seized by any country. When seized, the amounts are irrelevant to the amount of drugs that are being produced. For meth tablets, excluding samples classified as unknown, we have up to 70% using ephedrine and pseudoephedrine. Next one. What is happening, in our view, is that over the years, since ephedrine and pseudoephedrine became so largely controlled, and you have the two major producers, India and China, in the region, traffickers are moving into non-controlled substances, which is chemicals that are not controlled internationally. Some of them are domestically controlled, depend on the country, but they are moving into those chemicals which are a step further away from the end product, and they are not under control, so there's normally trade. Normally, all of the chemicals have illicit use, unless they are what we call designer precursors, which are basically produced for illicit drug manufacture. And these are then what the international community is trying to get hold of, and which makes a challenge for any national competent authority. How do you act when you have a product that's not controlled? How do you find it? How do you identify it? And where you can identify it that's being used for illicit drug manufacture. This is an example in August last year, 1,000 liters of propionate, which is a chemical ephedrine manufacturer that was seized in Myanmar. Next, this was June, a month ago, almost a month ago in, no, this is a different one. Can you move to, I think you jumped one. Oh, you're far ahead than I am. This must be a different one. Anyway, there's a slide that may come up later, or it's a major chemical seizure case in Thailand that happened in June, a month ago, in Samut Prakan, which is in the south of Bangkok, where the Thai authorities seized 1,800 liters of chemicals in 5 different locations from the same company. Toluene, which is a controlled substance, acetone is controlled, ethyl acetate is not, methylene chloride is not, and another set of chemicals. That just shows how you're able to store chemical, in some of them, as I mentioned, are controlled. A company that is not authorized to import, a company that's not authorized to storage, and a company that's not authorized to sell it. How could that company, in such a short period, acquire so many different chemicals in these amounts and keep them in? These are basically all from this company being trafficked by land to the border in Mae Sot with Myanmar and then crossing into the Shan state in Myanmar. Let me see where you are so we get back to the same slide. Next one, please. Yeah, this is the same. Ketamine seizures in East and Southeast Asia, 18.4 tons. It's a 21 decrease compared to the previous year, and also a huge decrease to 2022. That is because in 2022, only Cambodia seized so much ketamine because they identified over 23 sites with storage of the drugs, manufacture of the drug, and manufacture of the chemicals that they needed, and storage of chemicals. And then you also see the proportion of ketamine seized in the different countries. And you see Thailand, 27%, Taiwan. And what we see, and probably you have seen similar here in Indonesia, is that every time when we have either a seizure of a big quantity of drugs or chemicals or illicit drug manufacture site, what we have always is a Taiwanese involved, either as a cook, a transporter, whatever role he has in the organization, and the drugs are coming from Myanmar. 2 big problems for the United Nations. We can't basically deal with any of the 2. And 2 big problems that the countries in the region need to tackle and decide how we are going to work with Myanmar and how we are going to work with Taiwan, province of China. Next one. Yeah, that's the same. This is just as an example of a ketamine lab that was found in Nha Trang in Vietnam in March this year. See the size of it. This is industrial scale. It's an isolated area on the seaside. They had 3 locations there. And it is interesting, we saw in 2022, all the labs in Cambodia, they seized over 600 tons of chemicals there. I visited a few of them, and we now just managed to dismantle a few thousand liters and destroy it. Then after that, we saw a lab in January 2024 in Laos that was also exactly the same structure, same equipment, same chemicals. Just in that case, the chemicals in Laos were coming from India and not from China. And then the production being displaced again into Vietnam. Vietnam has a huge issue because it trades a lot in chemicals. It needs a lot of chemicals for their own development in the country. And at the same time, they don't have a very effective control mechanism for the chemicals after they're internalized in the territory. And in this one, as an example, they seized over 80 tons of chemicals and plus 1.4 tons of ketamine already. Next one is the ketamine use trends, where treatment data confirm a rapid rise in ketamine use across several countries in the region. Here you have a few of them, Cambodia, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Vietnam is the fastest growing one, and over the last years, and it's growing and growing. As I said, people are offering meth and ketamine mostly at the same time. Next is about the NPS. This is the new psychoactive substance emerging in this region, where we had 575 identified as of December 2024, 23 new NPS identified in 2024, no synthetic cannabinoids found in China, but Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam, yes. And etomidate analogs is another drug that China has a lead on it, but they put just under control all of the chemicals used for etomidate. Next is the illicit use of pharmaceutical products. This is a sample of what we see, whereas etomidate is part of the and its analogs that's used mainly in vaping products around the region. First in China, as I mentioned, and now spreading to the other countries in the region, including Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. And now moving to the last cross-cutting challenges, please, the next. This is what we see in the changes on the trafficking organizations, where you have drug trafficking groups organized in cells, with each member knowing only their limited role. That's a trend in drug trafficking across the globe in different organizations, where you have a transporter, he knows where to pick up the truck and drive it to the next station, but he only meets the next driver, so he doesn't know what he's doing. And that's the same thing we see happening here with fishing boats. The national syndicates frequently collaborate with the local criminal groups, like they use them as manager and outsource drug transport to local actors that normally they don't even know what they are transporting. They're just getting paid. This we see here. This we see more and more also happening in the Pacific. It ensures the protection of the large organization as it limits the exposure, making it more difficult for law enforcement to dismantle entire networks. So you can get a small cell, but you don't get the whole group. The next, please, is the growing use of technology across the entire chain of drug-related crimes, where we have planning and coordination, encrypted communication applications. So there are applications that you use on your cell phone that nobody can break them. Trafficking execution, where we have satellite internet to maintain connectivity, use of drone to monitor law enforcement presence and patrol patterns, ship-to-ship transfer with pre-programmed GPS coordinates, GPS tracking device on vehicles, everything possible. And the last part, the financial transactions and laundering of proceeds, mobile money platforms, cryptocurrency to obscure financial trades. This we see happening in the region. What we have been issuing some reports that we call the scam centers, where you have a convergence of organized crime activities, including the underground banking, cyber-enabled crime. So you're using the different sorts of criminality through the same thing, then going to a company and a person that who launders the crypto, and it goes to a fund manager, then distributes it to different forms of receiving the cash, transferring funds to other locations, buying property, or creating new shell companies. This is what we see. You don't have more isolated groups just dealing with one commodity like a drug or a chemical, but they are coming together more and more. The next just shows an example. The next one, please. Next one is already, yeah, as an example of criminal organizations offering 100% safe delivery of chemicals, controlled or uncontrolled, even for drugs. Packaging that are not being detected. So they guarantee that it goes through customs anywhere where you want it. Cryptocurrency is more and more used for payments, and the drug distribution on digital platforms also reduce the cost of the end product. And finally, at the next slide is the implications for Indonesia. Well, we have Indonesia remains a major destination and transit country for meth in Southeast Asia because of the islands, its geographical positioning, fishing industry, and the transportation that you have. But one alert that I always give to anyone, there is no such thing as a clean transit region. Everywhere where you become a transit and a trafficking road, you will become a user at some point, because payments are starting to be made in drugs just for the expansion of the market. A rising threat from maritime trafficking, increasingly used as a maritime route for meth originating from the Golden Triangle and from West Asia, either staying in the region or going over to the Philippines, down to Australia, down to the Pacific. Growing evidence of increased domestic demand for meth and other synthetic drugs, such in areas like Jakarta, Surabaya, and Medan. Active cross-border drug trafficking syndicate involvement, need for stronger regional cooperation, and public health and treatment systems are really under strain with the increasing drug use. As conclusions in the last slide, opium and heroin market at the crossroad, risk of expansion as global heroin supply chains adjust to the new production side and the use. Explosive growth in the illicit manufacture and trafficking of synthetic drugs. You don't need land to plant anything, you just need chemicals and know how to mix them. Spillover effects of increased methamphetamine trafficking from the Golden Triangle to the region and beyond. It's massive. If you look at 236 tons in 1 year, you multiply, if you take an interception rate in customs of 2%, which is already very high, you can imagine the amount of methamphetamine produced, trafficked, not seen, and then the amount of chemicals. For each ton of meth, you need 1.5 times more of immediate chemicals, and if you go for non-controlled, another 1.5 times more. So we're missing over 1,500 containers with drugs and chemicals being transported. Non-controlled chemicals continue to fuel the expansion of the synthetic drug market because the international system and national laws normally you have to mention each individual chemical to become under control. It's very difficult for most of the countries to have family groups or familiar groups of chemicals being put under control, like China does and other countries in the world. Emergence of NPS, synthetic drug products, and illicit use of pharmaceuticals as criminal groups evade legal controls. Tramadol is one example, and there's a lot trafficked globally. India is being one of the sources of it. Essential for the region to increase investment in both drug use prevention and supply reduction strategies. There need to be more integration between the countries because as you saw, there is no just domestic issue. You need to get involved with your neighbors and try to find out solutions for how to deal with the problem. And we as a UN, we stay ready to support the countries in any ways they want. We have very detailed programs on all areas on the drug control side, including also prevention and treatment. We had some alternative development programs, which doesn't apply that much for here, that we use a lot in Laos and also in Myanmar. And my special hobby is always the chemical side, as I love it. And it's basically the main, if you don't have those chemicals being trafficked, you wouldn't have the amount of drugs available nowadays. And thank you, and I'm available for any questions later.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rainier Punks, for the presentation. And we can see that the organic one is still threat. Now the non-organic one, the synthetic one, also becoming more important in our region, and the needs for cooperation, not only in the regional but also international level. Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite the Pak Deputy, Police Inspector General Agus Irianto, to give the perspective from Indonesia, how Indonesia responds, our policy. And I don't need to introduce Pak Agus, but just for the record, Pak Agus is one of the leading experts on this issue in the context of drugs, transnational crime. And also, besides he is an active duty of police officer, he holds a PhD from University of Birmingham. Pak Agus, we know that Indonesia also recently had a drug bust in last May. Maybe you want to touch on that issue also. Pak Agus, the floor is yours. Thank you, Pak.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to explore the Indonesia response to the information that's already mentioned by my friend Rainer Punks. More or less, my explanation will be the Indonesia response. As you know that Indonesia, we have National Narcotic Board that we have the duty spread out from the prevention, eradication, community developments, rehabilitation, and also cooperation. Next slide, please. Can do next. Okay. As the introduction, as we know that Indonesia is comprises of 17,508 islands, that becoming another geographical constraint that we have to overcome. And the drug problem, drug trafficking, and drug abuse is still the persistent and global and regional threat. The last prevalence surveys mentioned that we have approximately 3.3 million people suffering on using drugs, or we can mention them as the drug abusers. And we know that the Southeast Asia, we have the problem in increasing of new psychoactive substances, and also the record of seizures of methamphetamine. Recently we seized 2.2 tons of meth, and a week before this we seized like 1.9 comprises of two substances, that is 700 kgs of meth and 1.2 of ketamine. Because of this case, yesterday Pak Martinus asked me to send the letters in order to increase the position of ketamine, not only just normal regulation, but Pak Martinus asked me to ask the National Committee to put ketamine to become the new type of narcotics, to become the first schedule or the second schedule. And that's why we discussed with the Ministry of Health in order to put properly, because of so many cases of ketamine, so we will put ketamine as the new type of drugs. Because Indonesia, that we have neighboring country, almost all the neighboring country already put ketamine as the new type of drugs. And as I mentioned that Indonesia has to respond from all the information, all the numbers, all the statistics that being mentioned by Rainers. And also we have the geographical situation and population that is becoming Indonesia as a both target country and also transit country. And to know that one, next slide please. From the, I can explain a little bit or at a glance about how we have to respond. Indonesia put narcotics as a problem that we have to tackle. Just like iceberg theory, like iceberg, we can see the visible part and below the part or invisible part. The visible part will be, respond by the eradication. The invisible part will be respond by the responsive action, creative, and also fundamental. There is another deputies that have to work. That is deputy of eradication that respond to the visible part of the problem, and the invisible part of the problem will be done by the deputy of prevention, community developments. And next slide, please. And we have to define also in every part, the visible part, we can see the real problem that already happens. We know that the drug crimes occur when there is a desire to act, ability to act, opportunity to act, and suitable targets. We have to respond to the situation that already mentioned over there. And also to the hazard, if we put a comparison or in like a situation at that pictures we put on the surface. At the surface, we have to know the location, we have to know that the people that using drugs, we have to know the goods or the drug itself, and also the activities. So we have to respond in every part of the situation. And below that one, we know we have weaknesses that we have to respond as well. To respond to weaknesses, we have to have the fundamental solution. We have to know the root of the problem. We have to define which weak system that we have to overcome, and also the poor supervision, mental and moral models, and also the internal and social problem, lack of social controls, etc. That's why, in order to get this one, we divided our duty as follow. Next slide, please. That's how we have to divide the duty to combat of the problem of the drugs. On the narcotic fatal threat, or to overcome the problem itself, we asking the Deputy of Eradication and Deputy of Rehabilitation to tackle this one. And to tackle the hazard, we asking the preventive action, so it means it can be Deputy of Community Empowerment and or Deputy of Prevention. Just to exchange the duty between the preemptive action and preventive action to overcome the narcotic crime correlative factors and all the narcotic hazard. And the other part of BNN will cover all this part, like my deputies and the Secretary Generals, the Inspectorate Generals, Narcotic Laboratory, and also the Human Resources Developments. Next slide, please. As we know that the global and regional trends, we have so many things that we have to respond. We have to respond of the increasing of the methamphetamine production in the Golden Triangles, and we have to respond the situation of the rising use of synthetic drugs and new psychoactive substances, and also we have to learn more regarding the online platform and cryptocurrencies that now becoming still very hard for us to deal with. And also because of the entrance to Indonesia, we have so many islands. We have the high rise of smuggling via air, sea, and land borders. Next slide, please. To become the Indonesia drug situation as a snapshot, as being mentioned by Pak Martinus, that we have estimated or approximately 3.3 million drug users. And the dominant substances is methamphetamines, cannabis, and synthetic drugs. And the main resources that we have to know is the regional drug syndicates, including the transnational organized crime, and also the emerging threat. I can mention like online transaction, cryptocurrency, drug courier recruitments, and also the increasing of the problem of the new type of cartel in Bali. As you know that Bali, we have so many foreigners in Bali. I can mention like there is a cartel, like a Russian-speaking cartel in Bali that mostly they sell the drugs, not related to human, but machine to machine. We can order the drugs to the like Telegram or social media, and we have to pay in cryptocurrency or maybe in cashless that the account is far away from Indonesia, outside the country. And after 4 or 5 minutes, we can receive any information regarding what is our order of the drugs. They can mention, they can send us the position of the drugs, like latitude, longitude numbers, or coordinate numbers, and also the packagings that's happened. What is the reason? What is the cause? We have to dig more. The cause is because now we have the direct flight now from Moscow to Bali. That's the main reason. The second, we have problem. We have the war over there between Russia and Ukraine. One of the results of the interview is mentioned why the suspect is doing drug in Bali. First, they avoid from being sent to the war. That's the first reason. The second, they just want to live in the peace of heaven with a lot of money. That's the reason of the suspect that interview. Mostly they asking like this, they answering of our question, they answer with like freely, with like a smiling or something. And that's why we have the challenge because of the situation. First of our challenge is we have the rapid innovation in synthetic drugs and trafficking methods. The numbers I will tell you in the next slide. The second challenge is the legal and jurisdictional barrier in the cybercrime and dark web cases. We have so many cases that still very hard for us to overcome because we still have limitation of ability in handling the cybercrime and dark web cases. The next challenge is limited treatment facilities in remote areas. We only have the treatment facilities in Lido, about 75 kilometers from this place, and we have in Deli Serdang in North Sumatra. We have in Riau, in Batam, that at close to the border with Singapore. We have in Kalianda, and we have in Tanah Merah, and also we have in South Sulawesi. We still have a sort of places that can deal with the treatment. And challenges number 4 is the stigma and criminalization hindering rehabilitation. We still have so many problems regarding the rehabilitation, and also how we have to increase the quality and the capacity of the rehabilitation facility. And the other challenges is we need for greater data sharing regionally. We just have discussion with India. There's our colleague from India. Just before starting this ceremony, we have discussing about the possibility to have like a joint patrol in the border area between Indonesia and India, especially in the South Sentinel, in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because most of the drugs that recently seized by Indonesian authority was passing that places. Some of them come from Myanmar, some of them come from the Middle East, but they entering Indonesia through Andaman and Nicobar. That's why we urge to have a joint patrol, or maybe sharing the intelligence regarding if some vessel passing that places. And next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, that we have the emerging threat of new psychoactive substances. The global number, you can see over there, is about 1,349, and we can find in Indonesia is 167. From the 167, 97 identified still circulating in Indonesia. From 97, we still have 6 unregulated. First is ketamine, the second is Mitragina speciosa, that is in the endemic plantation of some addictive plantation that very easy to be found mostly in the area of West Kalimantan, especially in the sub-province that we call is just close to the borders. Yeah. And the other is alpha propylaminopenthiopenone, and then MDMB 5-methyl-INACA, that's mentioned already by Rainer, and also bromosolam and etomidate. Next slide. And the next number is the prevalence of drug abuse. Indonesia always doing the prevalence survey every 2 years. There is some reason why every 2 years. First, we have to discuss with the planning, Ministry of Planning. They suggest us to do it every 5 years. And when they discuss with me, it will be impossible because every 5 years, it will be change of governments. It will be impossible. The result of the prevalence will be as the fundamental platform to the next governments. So finally, reduced to 4 years, 3 years, and 2 years. 2 years at least in one period of regimes of government. So it can be done, or it can be as the fundamental information to do or to combat the drug problems. Next slides. That is the drug-prone areas map. As you know, that is the number. And the detail you can see in the next slides. You can see over there is the eastern coast of Sumatra Island. You can see there's so many dots over there. There is more sensitive places in the drug problems. As I mentioned previously that the Andaman Nicobar is up over there, and they are doing transshipment inside the ocean. The big vessel that come from Myanmar or come from the Middle East, they're doing the transshipment, and the small boat that come from the Malacca Strait, come from Aceh, come from Songkla, they go together and doing the transshipment over there. And the vessel, they continue using the international passage. As a note that, why international passage? Because Indonesia is the archipelagic country that we have to provide the international passage for the vessel to pass the area of Indonesia. And over there is the other drug-prone areas with the, we have the border with Sarawak, Malaysia in the West Kalimantan Islands. Next slides. And as we know that our government is very serious in responding the drug problem, that's why for the first time in the history of Indonesia, our president putting one of the mission, or we call it Asta Cita, Asta mean 8, Cita mean mission, to be put in the number 7. The strengthening political, legal, and bureaucratic reform and strengthening the prevention and eradication of corruption and drugs. And as we know that there is some cases, blending cases like narcotics and corruption and narcotic and terrorism. So we have to take care purely altogether this one. But because BNN, we have the main duty is to tackle the drug problem, so we are more focused on the drug problems. And that's why Pak Martinus, my chief, mentioned to become the moral standing. We have 3 moral standing, in this case that viewing the drug crimes after we examine all the numbers, all the victims. So Pak Martinus, on the chief of BNN, mentioned that drug is a threat to humanity and a threat to civilization. That's why Pak Martinus mentioned the second moral standing is to do the repressive action against drug syndicate network and empowering them, and we have to be humans toward the drug abuser and rehabilitate them. And to become complete, next slide please, we have the BNN policies and strategies. The first is strengthening collaboration. To remind the collaboration is, I will reminding you of one wise word, the most powerful weapons to combat all the type of the crime is cooperation and or collaboration. It's not said by me, but said by the founding father of Federal Bureau of Investigation and put on the FBI Academy over there. That's the wise word from the J. Edgar Hoover, the founding father of FBI. Then being put as the strengthening cooperation. So we have to change I think the idea of working from the standalone working to becoming the collaboration. So we have to have a lot of friends. So that's why thank you very much for all of our colleagues that can come to these launchings or briefing of the world drug problems. And the second is to increase the intelligent enforcement. So many cases that revealed, and Indonesia can seize so many tons of drugs is because of intelligent information that's shared by our colleague. It can be from DEA, from AFP, from Royal Canadian Mounted Police, from the other parts of our colleague Debbie's that seated in this room. And the other is, number 3 is strengthening countries' coastal and borders areas. As I mentioned, that Indonesia, we have 17,508 islands. And the distance between the most eastern part of Indonesia to the most western part of Indonesia, if we have to draw the line, is about 5,000 kilometers. And we have to, if we have to count the length of the coastal, it can be more than 130,000 kilometers. That's another challenge. That's impossible. Indonesia can cover all the area alone, BNN alone. As you know, the number of BNN officials is just 5,000. And the other contractual employee is another 5,000. It's impossible to cover all the wide area. That's why we have to have the cooperation in order to strengthen the coastal and borders areas. As you know, Indonesia, we have border with 13 countries. 13 countries. We have the coastal borders or maritime borders with 10 countries, and the other 3 countries we have the land borders. We have land borders with Malaysia, with Papua New Guinea, and with East Timor. And the other we have so many borders, even with Pacific countries, we have the borders. We have the border with Malaysia, also the ocean border with Philippines, with India, with Singapore, with Australia, of course, and also with the other countries. And then we have to strengthen the cooperation with border countries. We have training with East Timor, in the border in with East Timor, in Mota Ain, Mota Masin, Wini, and Napan. We started, and in the future we will enhance more training with East Timor, because if some problem happen in our neighboring country, it will become another problem in Indonesia. And number 5, that is thematic and iconic. Indonesia will handle all the problem according to the thematic and iconics. For your information, why we put thematic and iconic? As I mentioned, we have a lot of islands. We have more than 1,300 ethnics, and we have 719 local languages. So we have to deliver the programs according to the ethnics, according to the geographical characteristic, and also according to the language that the ethnics understand. And the last BNN policies and strategies is strengthening human resources and infrastructures. It will be impossible to handle all the drug problem without increasing the resources and infrastructures. And for your information, BNN is like a folder institution. BNN have no boats, we have no tanks, we have no like special infrastructures. If we have to go to somewhere to pursue some group of criminal, we ask our colleague from customs, can you prepare for the boat? We always say, we usually asking the Pak Sarif, that's from custom, to prepare the boat. And maybe we asking the Navy to ask the boat as well. That's why we need, the next is the key of priorities. We need to strengthen the intelligence and cyber capabilities to combat the online drug trade. The second is to expand access to treatment and rehabilitation, primarily on community base. As we have over there, Dr. Amrita, I think we have the Deputy of Rehabilitation, hiding somewhere maybe. And number 3 is we need to enhance the interagency coordination. BNN always have the coordination with police, custom, immigration, army, and the other stakeholders. And number 4, we have to strengthen the legal instruments, including the control over precursors and new psychoactive substances, and also promoting international partnership for technical support and joint operation. And we already put as well is in the National Action Plan that can be enabler and catalysts. Enabler is to unite the direction and commitment across the sectors, and the other is as a catalyst is to have the the understanding, the same understanding through the resource sharing and outcome sharing. That's why to deal with, next slide please, Indonesia have the Indonesian strategic response to the national policy and legal framework. We have National Narcotics Strategy 2020-2024 that now in the process of renewing is already well prepared, that just waiting for the to be signed by the President. Now it's already in the office of the President. And the second is the harmonization with international convention. As you know, I just want to remind that BNN working on 3 bases, that is Single Convention 1961, and Convention 1971, and Convention 1988. That now we have the law of narcotics that still in process of renewing. We are in the process of renewing of narcotic law because we have our new penal code and will be crisscrossing the narcotic laws. That's why we have to renew as well the narcotic law. And the second is the response to supply reduction is to strengthen interdiction and intelligence-based operation, and then maritime and border surveillance with military, police, and custom. And the third response is for demand reduction is to do the community-based rehabilitation. So it means like to do rehabilitation without stigma, and also school and workplace drug prevention programs. And number 4 is international cooperation. We have the cooperation with ASEAN, UNODC, Colombo Plan, INCB, with DEA, with AFP, with RCMP, and also with the other national, regional, and international entities. And also we have already the bilateral MOUs with 15 countries and also letter of intent with 2 countries. And next slide, This one is the counter-narcotic test that established based on the order of the President Prabowo Subianto. This almost involving all the ministries that have the common goals with the BNN. Just to combat the narcotics syndicate network. Next slide, please. This one is at a glance the information, the narcotics that come to Indonesia. This according to the data that we have, it's come from South America, Nigeria, and then European countries, Turkey, Middle East, and also like Golden Crescent, India, China, Golden Triangle, and also Malaysia. Why we put Malaysia special over there? Because we have the data that some of the narcotics come from Malaysia, from the street that divided Sumatra and the Bay of Malay. Next slide, please. This one is at a glance the route of narcotics that come to Indonesia. This at a glance. It can be changed in another months because it depends on the situation. Sometimes if we do some operation in the western part of Indonesia, eastern part will be another route. If sometimes we do the operation the western part, eastern part will be another route. Next slide, please. This is land route that we know that most of the narcotics using the main island is from the Aceh, that's come from the Andaman Nicobar, the entrance to Aceh. And in some cases, Aceh is not only producing or endemic plantation of cannabis, but also from the last two seizures in Sumatra Barat or West Sumatra, and just a few days before seizing of 1.9 tons in islands close to Batam, we arrested also 3 Aceh in the case, carrying 1.5 kgs, and the same with the West Sumatra that we arrested 3 people from Aceh as well. And also from this one, the border, the detailed points I already pointed to you in the previous slide is in the West Kalimantan and also North Kalimantan. In Papua New Guinea, border with Papua New Guinea, there is 3 places that we can mention as place that usually the drugs entering to Indonesia. There is 3 borders. There is Sko and Wutung is in the northern part, and Sota in the southern part, and also in Yetekun is in the middle part. Next slide, please. And 2024 case disclosure, as you can see over there, we have so many hectares of marijuana field. It depends. If we have more money, we can do eradicate more hectares of marijuana field, and we can do so many operations. This is in 2024 disclosures. And the next slide, that is the disclosure of narcotic syndicate network in 2024. That is the name of the syndicate of narcotics. The total of 36 network syndicate. Next slide. And this one is the disclosure of drug cases during the February 2025. It's already February 2025 with seizures of so many narcotics and also vehicles and the others. And next is the continuation of disclosure of drug cases during February 2025. Next slide. And the other is other syndicate in 2025, is the other syndicate. I will not explain all the syndicate because sometimes it's still very sensitive. We just named the syndicate over there. And next slide. This one is the seizures of money laundering asset of drug syndicate 2025. BNN sees so many like properties, like luxury houses, shops, vehicles, motorcycles, and the other case that come our attention is the Indonesian sales record. That is the seizing of the 2 tons of meth that recently, with the help with our counterpart from customs, with the police and also the Navy, in the area of Rio Islands on May 22nd, 2025. Just a week after the military, the Navy, seizing 700 meth and also 1.2 tons of ketamine. Next slide. That's why we need the cooperation. We have the cooperation nationally, as you can see the symbol over there, as with the police and with the Ministry of Finance, especially with the customs under the Ministry of Finance. And then the other is with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the Ministry of Home Affairs, with the other ministry. And also the bilateral, we have the Memorandum of Understanding, we have annual bilateral meeting, training with neighboring countries. Regional, we have ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Drug Matters, we have ASEAN Senior Official on Drugs, we have IDEC, Far East Region, we have HONLAB, and also international, we have the United Nations Convention on Narcotic Drugs. And as you know, Indonesia for the next 3 years, from the 1st of January 2024 until the 31st of December 2027, will be all together becoming the member of CND, all together with Singapore and with Thailand. Next slide. This is approved the national cooperation. Next. This is the bilateral cooperation. Next, that is the regional and international cooperation. And next, this one is when we coming the members of CND 2024-2027. We hope that becoming the member, we have the right to vote in voting, and also we have the right to submit the draft resolution that support Indonesia interests. That's why, in the case of combating the narcotic drugs, we put the way forwards. The first is to advance early warning and surveillance system for new drug dens. The second, to mainstreaming the alternative development in drug-prone communities. And number 3 is foster evidence-based policy making through research and data. We don't want to foster to make the decision without any evidence-based data. And number 4 is to build regional task forces for border and maritime control. That's why we hope we can have cooperation with India, with our neighboring countries, maybe with the Philippines, with Malaysia, and also with East Timor, in order to have to have task force or joint patrol along the borders. And number 5 is to ensure inclusive drug policies that balance enforcement and human rights. We hope in the next meeting, in ASOT, we will have ASOT, ASEAN Senior Official on Drug Matters, that will be on the next August. We will have the ASOT plus Australia, that we will build like a training for Southeast Asian countries with backup of Australia and will be held in Indonesia. And that's why Indonesia, we have our commitment. That is the uphold the 3 pillars, that is prevention, enforcement, and rehabilitation. And then actively engage in regional and multilateral dialogues. And then to support capacity building for frontline officers, because we have to enhance this one. We still very small number of the frontline officers that have adequate capacity and capability to handle the drug problems along the borders. And then to lead initiative on youth prevention, rehabilitation models, and drug-free communities. Next slide. That's all that I can share, that Indonesia stands ready to work with all partners to build a safer, healthier, and drug-free region. We hope in this sense we can enhance our cooperation in order to combat our common enemy, that is the drug problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Agus, for providing a very comprehensive and detailed briefing on Indonesia's policies, priority plan, as well as the landscape of drugs problem, not only in Indonesia region, but also in the context of international level. Just want to highlight the importance of international cooperation, as Pak Agus has said. For its part, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs stands ready to fully support the efforts of BNN and international level to combat the drug issue, in particular including in the Commission on Narcotic Drugs. We are the member until 2027, and as Pak Agus said, and we want to be an active member, not a passive member. We want to also to contribute to the international cooperation. With that, I would like to open the floor for question and answer to get some clarification, more detailed information from the colleagues in the audience. You can have in Bahasa or in Bahasa Indonesia or in English. Please, one person. Is there any other who would like to ask for questions? Okay, 2. And is there any other one? I would like to take up 3 if possible. If not, okay. Oh, 3. Okay. So, Bapak in the middle, and then from the front, and then Ibu next to the Bapak at the back. Is there any? Oh, okay. Please state the name and your name and institution, ya Pak. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Saya pakai bahasa aja ya, biar agak leluasa improvisasinya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Salam sejahtera. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Mungkin langsung, saya Terry, Direktur Interdiksi di BNN. Memang sebenarnya dari paparan yang tadi sudah disampaikan baik oleh Mr. Rainer atau Pak Agus, sangat komprehensif dan berbalas pantun ya. Artinya melengkapi satu dengan yang lain, bahkan mungkin tadi Pak Agus juga sudah cukup memberikan gambaran yang sangat lengkap dan detail tentang bagaimana maaf kata ya, penderitaan di Indonesia akibat berdampak dari drug trafficking ini. Faktanya adalah bahwa tadi disampaikan sama Mr. Rain bahwa ada peningkatan ATS maupun substansi yang natural tadi. Ada beberapa yang disgen atau menurun, tapi lebih banyak kepada peningkatan ATS, terutama yang source-nya adalah dari Golden Triangle. Juga mungkin disebutkan ada peningkatan juga di Afghanistan, sebagaimana kita tahu adanya kultivasi ephedra mungkin di Afghanistan maupun di Golden Triangle. Dan mungkin dengan adanya sambutan dari Pak Agus tadi mengenai data bagaimana melengkapi dan mendetailkan yang disampaikan sama Mr. Rain tadi. Yang tentu kita lihat bahwa isunya adalah apabila Indonesia melakukan penangkapan, maka mungkin neighborhood country atau negara lain jadi sibuk. Apalagi kalau sudah melibatkan warga negaranya. Sibuk untuk kepo kalau bahasa Jakartanya. Tapi ketika barang itu akan bergerak ke Indonesia, mungkin saya harus mengakui, so far informasi yang sangat bagus hanya dari DIE. Terus yang lain, apakah bisa mensupport kita untuk itu? Karena kita tahu, supply demand tentang chemical yang masuk Myanmar, sudah diketahui datanya dari China dan lain-lain. Apakah ada nanti effort lebih dari kebersamaan atau penjembatanan lembaga-lembaga penegak hukum narkotika internasional ini untuk membantu Indonesia untuk mematahkan, jangan sampai barang dari misalnya Golden Triangle sampai ke Indonesia. Gitu. Kemarin yang 2 ton kalau tidak ada peran dari DE, mungkin dengan endurance kolaborasi nasional dengan custom, mungkin belum tahu. Tapi begitu itu tertangkap, semua sibuk. Kenapa enggak sibuknya sebelum itu tertangkap? Karena kita tahu 1 gram narkotik berdampak kepada 3 penduduk Indonesia. Terbayang kalau 2 ton kemarin itu akan berdampak berapa juta warga negara Indonesia yang akan terdampak. Jadi mungkin saya sebagai salah satu warga negara Indonesia dan bagian dari BNN menyampaikan, kira-kira ke depan apakah kita hanya symbolize ataukah kita hanya mengutamakan proyek-proyek untuk supaya bisa tetap eksis lembaga-lembaga ini, ataukah kita mau real untuk melakukan battle atau pertempuran terhadap supply and demand tadi. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Baik, yang kedua dari depan, silakan.
Selamat pagi, terima kasih. Nama saya Arya Wibisono. Kami mengemban penugasan sebagai Direktur Kerjasama di sini. My name is Arya Wibisono. I am tasked as the Director for Cooperation at the agency. Pertanyaan saya adalah untuk General Agus dan Bapak Rainer. My question is for General Agus and Mr. Rainer. Saya ingin mengkonfirmasi tadi, kalau tidak salah kami menyimak di layar. Itu kalau mengenai synthetics, berarti sumber kimia yang di ekosistem yang ada di Asia Tenggara hanya ada dari 1 negara di atas dan sedikit dari sebelah tetangganya. With respect to psychoactive, the NPS, the new psychoactive substances, I just would like to confirm, we observed that the trend and the tendency of distribution was from a certain major country and the neighbor. Can I confirm that your statement, if I did not misheard, if we were to cut off those distribution supply, the problem would be non-existent for Southeast Asia. Apakah bisa kita konfirmasi bila mana itu distribusi transport di situ kita tutup, kita hentikan, masalah NPS akan hilang di Asia Tenggara. Demikian, terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Arya. Yang ketiga, silakan Bu, dari belakang.
Terima kasih. Nama saya Amrita. My name is Amrita. By profession, I'm a psychiatrist. By designation, I am one of the directors from the Deputy of Rehabilitation. Specifically, my designation would be the Director on Enhancing Government Institution-Based Treatment Rehabilitation Centers. Yang menjadi pertanyaan saya mungkin lebih kepada ingin memperoleh elaborasi lebih lanjut dari apa yang tercantum di dalam World Drug Report 2025 terkait dengan pendekatan pada demand reduction. Your presentation was very comprehensive, but I suppose it highlights more on the supply reduction aspect. Coming from the demand reduction side, we would like to hear more on what is in the World Drug Report highlights on treatment rehabilitation approach, probably if there are any effective strategies on treatment and rehabilitation approach that have been implemented globally, so it can be as a valuable input for us at the practical level as well as the policy making level. And the next question would be, based on the findings of the 2025 World Drug Report, 2024 World Drug Report, what would be the highlight of future specific implementative cooperation UNODC has for Indonesia? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for the questions, for the two questions. Okay, with that, I would like to give the floor back to the panelists. Pak Agus, kemudian Pak Rainer. Please, Pak Agus.
Thank you very much for the question that being asked to us. I would like to answer the question from Pak Arya regarding the the information of the NPS or the source of NPS. Frankly speaking, it's not so easy just like to know something that growing and just cut out and cut it. No, it's not so easy like this. If we got any information from some countries, for example, is from X countries, I will not mention some countries, but all of us know the source of the NPS that come to Indonesia. It doesn't mean that this country is officially sending the NPS. That must be the underground activities inside that country. For example, it's the country from the northern part of Myanmar. So it does mean not officially from that country, but maybe it's some group of criminals inside the country. The important thing is what is stated by Pak Terry, that we need to share the information. For example, is in some cases, I can mention is the case that the information is being delivered from DEA. A few years ago, there is some information regarding a fisherman boat that staying in some places for a certain days, fisherman boat. And then we discuss about the boat with DEA, this one. For what purpose this fisherman boat is staying in some point for a certain days? They must be going somewhere just to catch the fishes. The purpose is something like this. But why is just staying in some places first? And the second is, why this fisherman boat is carrying a lot of fuel? There is so many drums of fuel over there. Fisherman boat, a lot of drum of fuel. And the others, if we have to examine the net is not for the fisherman boat that have to go to the high seas. It usually, for the pictures of the net, is just used for getting the fish to the rivers. So it means it's not for fishing. It must be have another purpose of this fisherman boat, this one. And that's why for the information, with the help of the DEA, we contact so many authorities. We contact with the Sri Lankan authorities, with the Sri Lankan Navy. We asked them to stop to check the boat, and they didn't find anything. And when they entering the Indonesian waters, we asked the custom that inside the boat that's belong to the employee of Pak Sarip, just drag it, tear it, and just drag it to the Sunda Street at the moment. And then they check it, 1 inch by inch, precisely. And finally, we find like 319 kgs of mat that put just below the fuel compartments. They open the part, this one, and put over there, and then they weld it and repaint it. And the sniffer, they didn't even can sniff that one. And that's why we need more information, just not just like the information from the dog that can sniff. We need more information. For example, if there is some suspicious boat or vessel that would like to sail from some point, if some country they put on suspicious on some that or some of that boat they can share with the counterpart. And that's why it will be more useful if we can get advanced information regarding in some possibility or probability is some group of criminal they will carrying of the carrying some drugs, that's Iranians. The story that I tell you, this Iranian, I think it was 8 Iranians, because when the BNN and custom they seized that one, they stop it, they couldn't speak English, and we didn't understand the language that they were speaking. And finally, some of them, that is Farisi. So, and then we asked the embassy of Iran, Indonesia, to provide of the interpreters. And the other is related to Pak Arya question. It's better if we have like a new type of psychoactive substances, we should share it. We know we have already the system like early warning system. If some country finding some new psychoactive substances, it's better to put inside the system, so it means another country can understand there is another type of psychoactive that found in some countries. And the other is like to answer the question from Pak Terry, I just want to refrain that we need the cooperation. Even Superman need cooperation. You know, in the movies of, like Justice League, Superman called the friends. Even Superman called the friends. So we need others to support us with the information, to support us with some equipment maybe, and or to support us with so many others like media, or maybe with the forensic background or forensic backup, or other with physical backup like boat and other manpowers. So this is like as a must that we need to have a friend. We need to have counterpart to combat of the narcotic problems. That's the answer from my side. Please, Rainer.
Good morning. Thank you for the questions. I will try to respond as best as I can. Thank you for replying in advance, so it clarified a bit more for me. NPS, I mean, if you look at the overall drug problem, new psychoactive substances is a very small and even the use of it is very small. It's very easy to make, change it, you have new drugs, just because of the chemicals that you want to use, that's not controlled, but we don't see it taking up as becoming a major drug problem. It's a lot of new ones coming up, but at the same way we have new ones coming, the old ones are disappearing. So it's something that we have to keep an eye on, and we have this early warning system that you also have, that is to record what has been seized and identified globally. And it's working, that's why we have this amount of numbers. All the information about these drugs are available online on the UNODC's website, and you can log in and see every information, details on what's been seen, what kind of chemical, what are the effects, and whether there's some kind of treatment. Whether you can cut off the trafficking for a specific country to Indonesia, I wouldn't say it's possible, just to see how we deal with the overall trafficking situation globally. Whenever you shut down one trafficking route, another one pops up. I always had as good examples in Latin America when we had, we still have, a lot of coca bush plantations, and then you had a lot of illicit airstrips for people landing just with the airplanes, picking up the cocaine and flying out again. All the countries basically stopped destroying those land strips because it's first hard to identify them. When you find them, it's easy to destroy. But within a week or two, they build another one in another place. So you will have to start all over again. What the law enforcement in the region then decided is they look, find them, and keep an eye on them. So whenever an airplane comes down, they go and seize it. And these are the things with the trafficking routes. And the challenge for Indonesia is even bigger with all the seas and islands that you have. It's a very challenging border, if we want to call it like that. On the treatment and rehabilitation and demand reduction overall, I do agree that the focus normally goes more into the law enforcement. One of the reasons always is, first, demand reduction has always been seen by the member states of the UN as something that the countries have to do by themselves. So funding is a big issue to that. We do have a lot of work in that. We have guidelines, we have manuals. They were developed together with the World Health Organization as an example. And we do have programs in this region. We have, because of the latest funding situation that everybody's aware of, we suffered a lot of cuts in our program referring to treatment and prevention. And this led for us to try to at least keep a team of specialists in Bangkok that can cover the region, and we are doing it. We still provide some training on strong family skills, that they say, where we build up treatment in smaller communities. We do have that in several countries in the region, not as large or widespread as we would like to, but we do train specialists in different countries to do so. We are seeking more funding on that, but demands is coming up. And the other reason why we haven't done more is also because of the data provided by the member states is very small. So you don't have a drug use research survey in your countries. You don't know what kind of drugs are being used, what the people are using, what they need treatment for, what kind of treatment is available, or what kind of treatment you need to develop. That's why it's more difficult for us to jump into and offer you a variety of different options. There is no simple solution that applies to all countries. So with better data, it's also clearer what kind of prevention efforts you need to do, what kind of treatment options you have. That goes back on collecting this data, making them available for analysis. I think that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to touch on the information sharing ideas. What can be done to do this further? Thank you.
Information sharing, the big mystery for law enforcement. Everybody wants access to information. Every law enforcement agency that I know of wants to receive information, but very few of them would like to share that information with others. That goes throughout the board anywhere. What kind of agency you have or not, it's very demanding. Everybody wants to know everything. Sometimes you don't think that's needed. Sometimes it's just for the purpose of controlling, but it does not result in better action. We do have several mechanisms of information sharing. You have operational information sharing across the region in different modalities. The one that we use a lot in Southeast Asia is the Mekong Memorandum of Understanding. For the 6 signatories to it, this is the lower Mekong countries where they meet regularly. We discuss operations, we discuss scheduling of new substance, we discuss data collection, and it's ongoing since last week. We had the first meeting after 1 year of 3 working groups that were put in place under the MOU, where we designed specific activities in each of those working groups that all the countries will carry out in the next year, and then we follow up, we do the activities together and then report on it. And we had the first assessment last week, which went very well. This is one what we call multilateral one. You have a lot of more bilateral ongoing, and that's easier for law enforcement to do on a bilateral basis because you have DEA representative here, you have from other governments, the representatives at the embassies, and bilaterally is always much easier to share the information. We would like to see a lot of more sharing ongoing and risk profiling to identify how you are doing the trafficking in the region, who is involved. But the first response that we normally get when we have a seizure, because everyone says, oh, I cannot share the information because it's an ongoing investigation. But on the same day where the seizure takes place, that information is in the press. So law enforcement is also the first one who runs to the press and communicates, yes, we have seized. When we see a lot of those information, we go back to the government to verify whether it's accurate. And normally what we have, it's not accurate. So I can recall 2 years ago, we had a major seizure of 750 kilos of fentanyl in a neighboring country. I said, no, impossible. You'll never have 750 kilos of fentanyl. So we went back to check, and after the end, we had probably a few grams of it, a few kilos of fentanyl within a major shipment of a chemical that was disguised the fentanyl that you had inside. So, and these things happen. Another day we had another seizure of tons of Captagon, which is a drug used in the Middle East. And it was immediately in the press. When you go back to the government, oh yeah, it's confirmed, and then, no, where was it destined for? Oh, it was destined for an East Asian country. I said, look, there is no consumption of Captagon in East Asia. It doesn't exist here. So, and we had cases like that in the past, where it just comes from the Middle East over to this region, then, and big shipments, then from here it's repackaged or not even repackaged, it's just moved on to the next ship and goes back to the region. Just as an example, that's not for local consumption, it's just transiting. And these kind of information need to be improved and shared. Indonesia had also similar, where in the press sometimes it comes out a lot of specific chemicals or drugs being seized. When you go back, no, it wasn't that, it's something else. So this needs to improve. We go very easily to the press to make big announcements, but that also shows the lack of integration of the domestic agencies dealing with drug control overall. Competition between agencies is normal, but they need to communicate to have a more integrated approach and avoid these overlaps or stepping on each other. I don't see the need of creating new mechanisms of information sharing. They are available. We can, yes, try to make them more operational, where you go through with them, see how you can improve it, but need for development of new systems, no. We have just too many available. If you look at everything that all of you have to do on reporting, either for your own government or for the international community, it's duplication after duplication, and that generates extra work, extra languages, extra translations, and it's very, very hard. We try to reduce this as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just my comments. I have experience on this. Last week I was invited by UNODC to observe Phoebe SS Visit Board's Search Caesar training in Batam, and I can see myself that while it is conducted smoothly, professionally, but then the issue of coordination is one issue that we have to really handle, especially on the ground, and not only between national agencies, but also with our partners country in the region. That's my comment. But I have a question regarding the given the more complex situation of the drug trafficking in the region, especially the involvement of other transnational crime, the use of cryptocurrency, the money laundering, and the scam centers. How can we handle this? How can we tackle this further? But that's my question. But I want to open again the floor if colleagues want to raise some issues to us, to the panelists. Ada lagi pertanyaan? Okay, not seems to be the case. Okay, now probably that's the last one. And before that, after that, I would like Pak Deputy and Rainer to give the concluding words. And then, please.
Yeah, the other criminalities, scam centers. As far as I am aware, you don't have any in Indonesia. I hope you won't have them. We see a lot popping up in regions, like in the special regions in Myanmar, where the government has no control of the region. You have others in other countries also popping up because of lack of control, lack of governance in the area. And in reality, what happened with the scam centers, the criminalities that occur inside the scam centers are not new. They are old crimes that have been around for centuries. Just what we see now is that they're compounded in the same place. So you attract people from wonderful job offers to work. You get in there, then it's a different reality. You're going to be abused as a slave. You get beaten if you don't get to your quotas, the weekly quotas and things like that. And you get into different criminalities by doing that. What we see, the cyberspace, yes, there's a lot to do. More and more is going through cyber. Everything we do now is online. How do you prevent that? There's a lot of training available. We have a lot of tools. The new cyber convention is coming up for signature, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of October this year, and it will be in Vietnam, the ceremony. It's one more tool to be used internationally for prevention of the cyberspace. We do have in this region several programs, not only on the preventive side, but also on the investigation side. So in some countries, we supported the development of cyber investigation teams, which are very small and specialized group. You don't need to go across the board for training, which is much easier. We support the development of these cyber investigation centers. So they have the equipment, they have the software, and they have the ability to confront the cyber crimes better. The information sharing, as you mentioned in Batam, is just as a good example. In the other areas like drug prevention and rehabilitation, normally we are talking of a massive training program. And we did that also in law enforcement over decades, but we reached the point of exhaustion. The number of people that you need to train is so large that you can't do it. The resources are not available. So we are trying to step and advance in some different trainings. We keep that traditional in-class training for very specialized training, but the overall basic standards we are trying to move into providing curricula to training academies that you have in your country, universities, whatever, depending on the area that we are covering. We are developing e-learning programs. There are a number of that are available already. And we are developing also virtual reality platforms for training. And the VBSS, the Maritime Crime that you attended, is upon their request, we developed a virtual reality module of the drug and chemical test kit that we have, because Coast Guards or navies, whenever, depending on the country, requested to us that if you use a drug test kit in the lab is one thing, try to do it on a boat in the middle of the sea. And so then it's okay. We did then a virtual reality module, and it's available, will be available this year. We are just in the process now of finalizing the translation, and it will also be in Indonesia, Bahasa, available for it. It's a short training that takes up 10 minutes. That the VBSS training will use it in the classroom first before going to the live exercise on the boat, just to prevent accidents, disasters that you can have, because the people will already know the feeling what they have to do. This is one of the changes that we are trying to promote overall in the world, is moving for different training, incorporating the basic standards into the national plans. And the specialized one going them, keeping the classroom training.
Thank you. Now, if there is no other, is there any other last chance to ask questions? Oh, okay, thank you. For the last words, I would like to invite Pak Agus and Rainier to give the final remarks. Okay, Rainier.
Okay. Thank you. I have not much more to say. First of all, as to thank all of you for your patience and your time. I hope I managed to transmit some of the ideas. Thank Indonesia for the great work that I have been doing in the area. It's a challenge. You saw it way more from Agus' presentation than from mine. The geographical situation, the size of the country, it's a constant challenge for anyone, on all sides, including treatment, including prevention, and including the law enforcement aspects. The drug problem is not going away. Discussions around legalizations, decriminalizations will continue to happen. But we, as a UN organization, as the custodians of the 3 International Drug Convention, we don't support these processes in the sense that it's against the convention when you go to recreational use of drugs. Medical use and for research, yes, it's supported fully by the 3 conventions, and we do that too. We cannot support the legalization process overall. That's because we're working against our own principles. Right? And overall, yeah, we are here, and through Eric, who is the head of the country office in Indonesia, we can support and receive any request from your side, and we will see how we best can advance in doing it. Challenges are there, and they are growing. Thank you.
I would like to say thank you first to Eric van der Veen for having discussion with me to make this, the program for today. And I hope that these programs can be continue to the other discussion among the representative from the other country in Indonesia, so we can tighten our cooperation with, can have the forum of discussion, so we can know directly what is the problems that happen in every country, and also how we have to solve the problem with helping one to each other, with sharing information one to each other. And the second, I would like to say thank you as well to all of the counterparts that always tirelessly helping us with the information, like DA, thank you Andy, and also we IFP, we have Salam Sreika, we have from APF, we have Sarah, Sarah, we have Mr. Serrano, from Spanish, right? We have Mr. Sato from Japan. Also, we have others that unable for me to mention all the name of the participant. But once again, thank you very much for tirelessly helping us in sending the information, in sharing the training, and also in financing the training. And we hope it will not stop here today, but also it can be expanding in more wider programs and also in more wider participants. It's better to have training altogether so we can get two goals. First is to enhance the ability. The second is to broaden the network. So once again, thank you very much for coming to this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Agus. With that, I would like to conclude the discussion session by re-emphasizing the need of collaboration in regional and international level to respond to the challenge posed by the narcotics globally and regionally and nationally. With that, thank you so much. Now I would like to close the meeting and then give it back to the MC. Thank you so much and good afternoon.
Thank you, the panelists and the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the closing segment. It is an honor to me to invite the UNODC Head of Office and Liaison to ASEAN, Mr. Eric van der Veen, to deliver his closing statement. Mr. Eric, the floor is yours.
Selamat siang. Colleagues and friends, thank you very much for this event, for this discussion. I've myself found it extremely enriching. And thank you to BNN, Pak Martinez and Pak Agus for co-hosting this with us. It's extremely important to bring the data and the policy responses that we have to venues like these so that we can collectively work on the responses against this phenomenon, which we have seen from our discussion. Thank you to Pak Chaka, thank you to Pak Agus and to Reiner for sharing that information, that knowledge, and that expertise that you have. Because data information about drug trafficking is notoriously difficult to come by. That is why the World Drug Report that we have presented today is one of the tools very crucial and essential to UNODC's work to bring information to our member states to build a foundation that can help you triangulate your own intelligence and that can help you to develop those operational and policy responses that are effective. Now, what we've seen from the presentations is that the information that we do have paints a sobering picture. We're seeing that the global drug market, and in this part of the world, especially the market in synthetic drugs, is expanding. And it's expanding at a rate that we haven't really seen before. And so Southeast Asia, in many ways, is a global frontline for the fight against synthetic drugs. Now, drug trafficking in and of itself is dangerous in two fundamental ways. First of all, drug trafficking cartels can quickly establish a presence, influence, and become formidable opponents for law enforcement authorities in many countries. But it comes with a very significant public health risk. We can look back in history, but we can also look at examples of countries today, regardless of their status in development, where the struggle to contain drug use is real. And it is expensive and complicated to develop a comprehensive response against a public health crisis that is fueled by drugs. And if I may connect with what Ibu Amrita asked earlier, about why we have the limited information about drug demand reduction and effective policies and the data. There's another element to that discussion that I would like to bring in, because Indonesia and UNODC have collaborated very well on prevention and treatment. We have worked together on family-based approaches when it comes to drug treatment and drug prevention. And that is established as a national curriculum in Indonesia. And as far as the numbers go that I have seen, it works extremely well. So what our job here at UNODC is not only to facilitate international cooperation coming here, but also to take the examples that have been developed here to other countries wherever that can be helpful. So I think it's important I would suggest it's important for all of us to be aware that at UNODC we can facilitate that dialogue between countries, and Indonesia, as mentioned also by Pak Chaka and Pak Agus, we can facilitate that discussion, for example, at the Commission on Narcotic Drugs that Indonesia is a very active member of. Now, another thing that hasn't come up today, but that I would like to mention as well, that is a risk in certain countries, is and a risk to the public health side of this phenomenon are different ways of consuming drugs. For example, drug-laced vaping products. That in and of itself poses problems in terms of detection. It's much more difficult to identify than if we find a container or a ship full with suspicious packages. So that is also something that is on the horizon and that we need to be aware of. Now, one of the elements that we did talk about that seemingly underpins potentially a lot of the increase and the expansion of the illicit drug market that we're seeing is how new technologies enable crime to expand and make it much easier for criminal groups to evade detection. Artificial intelligence, drones, and cryptocurrency. Movements in cryptocurrency escape law enforcement authorities around the world. And following the money, tracing and seizing it may very well be one of the most effective methods that we can deploy to reduce this phenomenon and get a grip on it. Because getting a grip on it, that is what needs to happen. And we need to develop the policies and the operational strategies that can reduce the expansion that we are seeing. Now, we've heard about Indonesia's impressive track record recently, the 27 criminal syndicates that have been interdicted, as well as the largest meth seizure in history 6 weeks ago. That is also a likely indicator in support of the expansion of this market. So in addition to a focus on seizing the proceeds, international cooperation has been mentioned as an essential tool to support this, as well as combining smart enforcement responses with those public health policies. So we at UNODC, we're proud and available to work with Indonesia on this topic, as well as with all the other member states represented in this room as well as outside. And we want to continue being that platform to support you with comprehensive, balanced drug control policies, both within Indonesia as well as globally. With that, thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing our work together. And with this, may I close our event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eric, for your closing remarks. With that, we have now reached the end of our program. On behalf of our organizer, we would like to express our sincere appreciation for your active participation and valuable insights throughout the event. We now invite all participants to enjoy the lunch that has been prepared. Thank you once again, and we look forward to continue your collaboration in the future. Please enjoy your lunch.
Racun mengalir bisik dalam jiwa.